Hey there, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name's Andrea and I love the Pilates Method of Exercise. And if you've been here before, thank you so much for coming back. Today I have a question from an email request from Brian Brooks. I hope I'm saying that correctly. And Brian wanted to find out some more help with the rollover on the mat and how to work on the lift of the bottom that is necessary to do the rollover. So, Brian, you may be sorry that you asked this question. There's actually a lot of help, both in the exercises that precede the rollover, even though there aren't many because it's kind of in the top of the routine, and also building toward proficiency in the rollover even before you add it into the exercises for yourself. So, first let me just show you what we're talking about. The rollover is the third exercise in the mat sequence from Joe Pilates, and if you have a mat with handles, you can have your arms on them, which is actually a really nice help. Otherwise, you'll be on a mat with your arms here. So we'll discuss both of those scenarios. So the roll over, open, roll down. Usually it's done 3 times this way. And then 3 in the reverse direction. And sometimes I find that people are asking me why that big move that early in the workout. And this is a fair question. And so let's just talk about what's happening in the 2 exercises that precede it. We'll talk about that first, and then we'll look at sort of like a basic mat workout and where you can find help. Maybe even basic workouts on several apparatus. Okay, so you start with your 100, and the 100 is our warm-up. It goes on for a long time, and I like to take the opportunity to use my center, use my stomach to really open up and make my back as much like the shape of the mat as I can during the 100. And that's not going to change the position of my pelvis, but it is going to make me use my stomach and my bottom. So I'll explain. I've actually been fond of doing the 100 with my legs on the mat, but I'll give you a couple options. So I can feel the mat behind me, and I'm actively feeling like I'm pulling my bottom together and lifting it up toward my waistline and lifting my waistline all the way up to my hands, so that everything that would sit up on the short box, let's say, from the squeeze of the bottom together all the way up, that's really what's going to be working here to kind of lift you this way. So I'm going to come up, and I'm going to continue to kind of pull myself this way away from my feet as I pump the arms. And I find in that way it's really more successful to feel like in the 100 you can suck the stomach in and stretch everything away. And you could also kind of open up the back on your way up to the 100 if you like to have your legs in the air. So you can lift your bottom, lift your waistline, and kind of stretch the lower body away from your bottom so that the heels are kind of going that way and the bottom is going in and up toward my head. And this is going to sound bad, I kind of enjoy how long the 100 is because it's a warm-up and I need to open up my back because I'm a little bit stiff, and so I kind of feel like, well, I got time. I've got 100 pumps to really get something going, get warm, and get a little open in the back. Then we have our roll-up. So our roll-up and the roll-over are a great team. The roll-up, let me fetch my strap. With a strap or without, the roll-up is really the first stretch, big stretch of your back from the top over. So you're kind of stretching the top of you. I'll do that again. And I'm still lifting my bottom, pushing and lifting over. And then when we get to our roll over, we're going to do the same kind of nice big first stretch of our back, but we're going to do it from the other end. And I like to start, sometimes I like to start with my legs at 90 degrees so that so I'm stretching that part, and then I'm rolling down. And now let's talk about what makes a rollover, first of all. So you may have seen people do the rollover where their feet touch the mat behind them, or even on this high mat, their feet touch the floor behind them. And that while that is the goal, that may not be the goal for today, that may not be the goal for you right now. And so don't kind of feel like if you're not getting all the way over there that it's not really the rollover. The point is that you're going to stretch your back from the lower body. So let's look at a different idea of the rollover. I like to call it tiny rollover. And actually, I believe I've written a blog post about this, and I will include that in the info box below because I talk about the quality of how to lift the hips up and that sort of thing. And I do mention tiny rollover as well. So for tiny rollover really exploits your control. You want to make sure that if you do the rollover, that you're not just hauling yourself back there any old way, but that you are in control and you're using your muscles so you can also control your descent back down to the mat. Okay, so tiny rollover is going to start with your feet toward the ceiling. And you want to feel like if your lower body started up high on your back, so like all the back of you traveling all the way to the heel is the back of you and what's going to kind of stretch as you go over. So you want to use all the power that you have on the front to get yourself there. So I'm going to squeeze my legs together and I'm going to push the upper stomach in and lift up with control. I'm going to hover as I open my legs, and I'm going to suck my stomach in to roll back down. And it might be that if you're just starting the rollover, that you get this far. That is perfectly fine. It's actually harder to do than the first thing I did. And then over time, your control will build, and you can go further. I'm just going to do a little in the reverse. And what you're trying to avoid is a little bit of that momentum creating, like heave-ho that I like to call it, where you kind of fold your legs into yourself and then there's like a kind of action. So lifting up versus folding in half. And so what about that element that you're working toward your feet being on the floor? You want to make sure that you're kind of honest about the stretch of your back so that you're not just putting your feet there because that's where they go or that's where they're supposed to go. So the point is that you're trying to stretch this part of your back, and depending on your individual tightnesses or non-tightnesses, it might be hard to put your feet there. And I did this exercise for years before my feet ever got anywhere close to the mat. And now I sort of don't focus on that because I'm thinking about other things. And sometimes by like the last one, my feet get to the mat. But sometimes they don't. So let's talk about how to get them there with control properly and how to avoid like just parking them down there. So I want to make sure I don't go onto my neck, which is kind of my MO. And so I want to make sure that this part of my back is what's trying to touch the feet to the floor, not from my foot. Okay. So I'm gonna pull my upper stomach in and try to wrap my back around that and stay off my neck. Let's do another. So that versus, see how like that was just like that part. It wasn't really doing anything for this at all. And so, you know, that might be satisfying to our egos, but it's really not doing its job to warm up our back. Because after this exercise comes the one leg circle, where we're gonna kind of stretch one side of our back at a time. I mean our back of us, not just the back itself. Okay, so tiny rollover. Use the 100 and the roll up to help you prepare for the rollover. So that's one aspect. But we really learn the first hip lift in rolling like a ball on the mat. And usually you would do a lot of mat before you would even add the rollover. So you've been probably doing rolling like a ball, open leg rocker, perhaps the corkscrew, perhaps the jackknife. And all of those upside down shapes, those are all the same. So if you can do rolling like a ball, you know, that's just like a moment up there. And then open leg rocker is a little bit longer moment, but with straight legs, so it's a little bit more challenging. Actually, I'll just do some of those. So you have rolling like a ball, just a moment of hip lift. And then you have open leg rocker, little, you know, reminiscent of our rollover position, right? And then you have the corkscrew. And you might be doing just a little bit of lift in that. And then you have the jackknife. So that was going to put you over for a bit longer. So we're kind of building that hip lift in until you get to the control balance at the end, where you're kind of up on that spot balancing for a long while. And probably you won't do control balance probably before the rollover, but at some point when you can lift your hips and do the corkscrew and the jackknife, that's usually when the rollover is added. So use all of those exercises. If you haven't added the rollover yet, use your rolling like a ball and really feel like you're using your seat to kind of not only reach to the ceiling, but to actually engage and hold you aloft. Oops. And if you can think of the exercise, the tower that is done on the Cadillac, that's really also your training ground for having that lift, survive being upside down while you control the heavy spring coming down. And there's all kinds of exercises also on the reformer that you'll probably add before the rollover as well. Short spinal massage is the one that I'm thinking of the most, and that actually you can apply directly to your, you know, like the short spine, you know, you send your legs out first. They're a little bit like this, but they're supported. So you can cut, and then you take off. So you can kind of do that approximation from this 90-degree position, so that you would just kind of pretend you have those straps to lift into as you do the exercise. So I hope that helps. Please leave me a question if you have other aspects that I did not discuss that you're wanting to know about, and I will include some blog content. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this helpful, and if you'd like to see more videos like this, do become a subscriber. Use the bell icon and you'll be notified every time I publish a new video. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all your kind words and your comments, and I could not do this without you. Love you guys. Bye!